Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Craig's Kitchen. Although, as you can see, we're not in my kitchen at the moment. We're actually in my brew cellar, or as we call it, the brew dungeon, where I make all my homemade beer and wine. And why would we do a Craig's Kitchen down here instead of upstairs? Well, because I'm not going to be cooking today. I'm actually going to be fermenting something for you. And it's not going to be beer or wine or anything like that. This fermentation is going to be a cabbage. And what are we going to make? Sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is a very old thing that people have been making for hundreds and hundreds of years. There's different ways of doing it. A lot of times the sauerkraut you buy in the grocery store is just like pickled, like vinegar. It's got vinegar, it's mixed with vinegar and things like that, like wine vinegar, and there's sulfites in it. There's preservatives. It's basically been pasteurized, and it's fine. I mean, if you like that kind of sauerkraut, great, use it. But there's no health benefits to it, and I don't think it tastes quite as good as the homemade stuff. It's not authentic sauerkraut. If you ask any German person who's into this kind of thing, or you know, somebody who knows about sauerkraut, you'll understand that it's the only way to make authentic sauerkraut is to ferment the cabbage, not pickle it with vinegar. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. Here's a jar of sauerkraut that I made a little while back. As you can see, I've been eating it. Okay, so it's, you know, it's half gone. It lasts for over a year in the fridge. All the different kinds of food we eat these days, cooked foods, we cook all our vegetables, we cook the meats and stuff like that, the junk food we eat, the fast food we eat, all that stuff. Guess what? It's really accumulatively terrible for your intestinal system. And it all has to do with bacteria. There's bad bacteria and there's good bacteria in your system. And most people have too much of the bad bacteria and not enough of the good stuff that you need to digest your food. And that's why we have problems, okay? So what you need to do is get rid of the bad and replace it with more of the good. And that's what this does. And you can ferment cabbage, you can ferment all kinds of different vegetables, but we're just going to do cabbage today, okay? I'll do other things in another episode. It's called lactofermentation, and it creates a bacteria that absolutely you need in your intestinal system to digest your food and to have a properly running pipeline. Basically, if you want to go that route, that's what you've got to have. So without further ado, and I'll talk more about it as we go further into the process, get yourself a nice fresh cabbage. This is just a normal green cabbage. I've removed the outer leaves, the ones that were kind of nasty. Got a couple of bowls here. I haven't got a bowl big enough to do it all in one bowl, so I've got two. But, you know, you'll see what we've got. Put that over there and how it all works. Okay? So you got yourself a cabbage. You're going to need a good sharp knife, a cutting board, measuring spoons. Potato masher is going to come in handy. I know that sounds crazy, but you'll see what I mean. Okay? You're going to need some sea salt. Okay? Sea salt, not normal table salt. Finely ground sea salt. I get this stuff, it looks like this. This is the box mine came in. Whoops. Sorry about that. I was trying to turn it around so you can see the English side. It's just sea salt. So cabbage, salt, oh, and a jar. How about that? Now, clean the jar out with hot soapy water. A lot of people I see doing this don't even sanitize. It's not like making beer or wine. You don't have to be that fussy about sanitizing. Obviously, you're going to wash your hands really well, and you're going to clean this out really well with hot water. If you want to sanitize it, you can put it in the oven at 200 degrees for 15 minutes. That will kill everything, basically. Or if you're a home brewer, you can go ahead and use, you know, a sanitizing product, just like you normally would when you're making your home-brewed stuff, your beer or whatever. Right, I think I've got that covered. If you have one of these things, you're going to be a happy camper because it's going to make it go a lot faster. But if you don't have to have one. I'll show you how to do it without. All right, the first thing we're going to do, now we got that all out of the way, is get your cabbage, and we're just going to cut this nasty piece off here. Good sharp knife. If you don't have a sharp knife, you don't have a hope in hell of doing anything in the kitchen, okay? So good sharp knife. And then the next thing we're going to do here is just we're going to cut this, okay? See, there's the core there. I'm going to cut this in half. And this can be even with a sharp knife, challenging. Here we go. Okay, and some things are going to fall. Now these leaves that fall off, set them aside. Okay, you're going to need those. Then we're going to cut this in quarters. Cut in half again. Like that. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. You could even do that again if you wanted to, but we won't bother. Okay, we'll do this one as well. Right, now what we need to do is get rid of the core. This part is not going to help you. Well, actually it will come in handy. There's another piece that fell off. It will come in handy, so don't throw it away. Set it aside, or you can eat it if you want. Okay, so cut that out. I just set it aside. You just go down either side of it. Okay, there we go. All right, sorry, that's my favorite part of the cabbage, is to eat the raw core. It's great stuff. Now, the object here is to slice this as thinly as you possibly can. So basically, you can just get a sharp knife and go ahead and start thinly slicing. Whoops. Your cabbage into thin strips like that. All right. Now, and that's fine. Okay. It's even a little bigger than I would like it, but the thinner you can get it, the easier it's going to be to prepare. And you'll see what I mean by that in a few moments. And also the faster it will ferment and make into sauerkraut. So the other thing you can use is a food processor. It depends on the food processor you have and how thick it cuts the cabbage. So you're going to have to experiment with that if you have one. You can use the slicing blade, or you can try the grating blade. That's going to make it really small, and that's fine. This is something that you really have to experiment with, and try and see what works for you and how your equipment works and what kind of texture, you want in your sauerkraut. Okay, myself, I'm just gonna push these off to the side for a moment. Myself, I have this thing and I love this, and I am going to use it. So you want to put this sliced side down, and of course I always use the handle because I don't want to cut my fingers off. All right, and we're just going to go ahead. If you don't have one, you can't use it. So whatever way you can do this, slice your cabbage up as thin as you can. I feel like Ron Popeil at the moment. Just whoops. Right? And see, now you can see if I just move this out of the way, if I go to the other camera, that is a great texture. Okay? It's nice and small, and that's perfect. So I'm going to keep doing this until we get a whole boatload of this stuff ground up, and we'll come back and I'll show you what the next step is. All right? And we'll just keep on chopping. even if you do use a food processor or a V-slicer or a mandolin or whatever it is you have to slice your cabbage up with, you're still gonna need to do some of it by hand, okay? So you're gonna need a good sharp knife for that. And just do it as thin as you possibly can. There we go. Okay, so I've got 2 bowls full of shredded cabbage, okay? As you can see here, let me set that aside over here. Look at all that. See the volume that you've got there? We've got 2 bowls. If you have a huge, big bowl, you can do it all in one. I've heard rumors that you're not supposed to use stainless steel bowls. I don't know if that's true or not, but they say it changes the chemistry or something. I don't know. So I'm just using plastic bowls here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work with 1 bowl at a time, and you'll see how this works. This is the magic. Got some extra bits here that we're going to use, later. Okay. Now, let's talk about the brine that needs to be made for this to ferment. The brine is going to come from the cabbage. So what you need is salt. And I talked earlier about using sea salt. Okay. Now, the ideal amount of salt, basically, you're talking about 1 kilogram of cabbage. Okay, every kilogram of cabbage, and you're gonna have to, if you don't use metric, you'll have to do the conversion. For every kilogram of cabbage, you want a rounded tablespoon of salt. So let me get my scale, okay, because you kind of need to know how much salt to put in. So that's one thing I forgot to mention. Get yourself a food scale. They're so inexpensive, and you need one if you're going to do things like this anyway. So that's what we've got. So what you want is you want to weigh it out. So you've got a kilogram of this cabbage here. So let's do that. Okay, so I've got 500 grams, half a kilogram of cabbage in this bowl, and half a kilogram of cabbage in this bowl. Split it up into halves because I can't fit it all in one bowl. So here's the thing, okay? I do have some left over, right, which I will deal with later. The magic here is this. For every kilogram of shredded cabbage you want about 18 to 20 grams of salt, sea salt. 18 to 20 grams of sea salt is about like that, sort of a rounded tablespoon, okay? It doesn't have to be exact, so don't worry too much about that. Now, the cabbage that I showed you that I had when it was whole, that's probably about 1.5 kilograms of cabbage. Really, the only accurate way to do this is to be able to weigh out what you've got, okay? And that's how you're gonna know how much salt you'll need. So I'm done with that for now. All right, so 1 kilogram, half here, half there. What am I going to do? Well, I need 1 rounded tablespoon of salt for the entire kilogram. So I'm going to take half of it here, and half of it here, roughly. Okay, it's all going to get mixed together anyway, but the problem is that the density, the volume of it is too much. But watch what happens, and yes, it does make a mess. There's cabbage all over the place here. Watch what happens when we start to take the first bowl and just mix that salt in with the cabbage. All right, and this takes a little while. By the way, take out any big pieces of cabbage that may have snuck in there. Okay, like that one's a little big, but we'll just leave it, right? And what this is going to do, the salt is going to draw the juices. There's a big piece there. Let's eat that. Draw the juices out of the cabbage. All right. So give it a good mix around. Now you can already see that it's reducing in the amount of space it's taking up in the bowl. All right. So eventually we will be able to add the two of them together and get one bowl of cabbage. So that one's good. Let's leave that and set that aside for a few minutes. All right, and bring the second one in and do the same thing. If you have a large bowl, big enough for all of this stuff, then do it all in one bowl. You know, that's probably the best way to do it. Let's mix that together. 1 kilogram of cabbage to 1 rounded or heaping, rounded, whatever you want to call it, tablespoon of sea salt. All right. So I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to go back and forth between them. I'll do this one here, get the salt all mixed in. All right. You want to break the cell membranes of the cabbage. You want the salt to draw the liquid out, and the liquid that comes out, that's your brine. Okay? You don't add water to this. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This takes a little while. You know, chopping up the cabbage, especially if you don't have one of those slicer things, and doing this with it and massaging it and getting all the juices out of it, takes a little while, but it's easy to do. That one's, we're going to leave that one a little bit. Get this one over here. You can see how it's reducing big time in volume. Okay, or at least in the space it's taking up. All right, because it's wilting, liquids are coming out, and you'll notice that the cabbage starts to get moist. Now, at first, it doesn't seem like this is going to work. Trust me, it will. I guarantee you it will work. At this point, what we're going to do is get our trusty potato masher. People use different things, but I've never seen anyone use one of these to do this with, and just bash it. Tamp it down. You want to force all of the water, or brine, or whatever, out of the cabbage. And so you just keep on doing that for a little while. This probably takes about, and you can stop and let it sit because it will continue to draw the liquids out of the cabbage. This will take about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, well, you know, I've been doing this for about 10 minutes. It didn't take very long, really. And I want you to see. I'll show you what this one is easier to see. See? Look at all that. That is your brine. Okay? That is what the salt has done to the cabbage just by mixing it, doing it like that. And see, you've got all that. So now I can put them both in the same bowl and make sure you pour the brine in there as well. Get it all in there. I mean, the longer you do this, when you can sort of sense that there's no more liquid coming out, that's when you want to put it in the jar. But I think the most valuable thing here is your potato masher. That's what it looks like. Now, pretty much simple. Just put it in a jar. Okay? Okay. Yes, it's a bit messy. It's best if you have a wide mouth jar that you can put your hand in there. Of course, you've got clean hands when you're doing this. And basically really just tamp it down quite firmly, okay, as you're putting it in. That's all there is to it. I mean, you're going to have sauerkraut in about a week. What you want to do is you want to store this once you're done here. Store it at room temperature with the lid not all the way tight, okay? Now look, we've put that entire, what you saw, those 2 bowls of cabbage into one jar, okay? So you just press that down as tightly as you can, and then try and get it all off the sides, if you can. Don't forget to add the rest of your brine here. Okay, you want to leave a little bit of room at the top there, and then here is where these little extra leaves come in. Okay, what you want to do is put this in. That's actually fine. That will do. You want to make sure that your sauerkraut or your fermented, your grated cabbage stays below the surface of the brine, because if it doesn't, you could have problems with rotting or mold. So as you can see here, I've managed to do that with this piece of spare cabbage here. There's no problem with that. And if you want to be extra careful, grab one of your pieces of the core, put it on top, and then when you put your lid on, this looks like it's a little high, so I'll just pour some of that out, just because otherwise we're going to have a bit of an overflow problem here. There, you see that? And then when you put your lid on, it'll press down on that. Keep it under the surface. Just tighten it loosely like that. Put it in a warm place, you see how that is? Give this about a week, week and a half maybe, or as long as you want. You are welcome to take the lid off after 3 or 4 days and get yourself a clean fork and give it a taste, see how it is. Put the thing back in, the cabbage, put the lid back on the way it is now, leave it, and figure out when it is that you like the taste of it. After you think it's done, tighten the lid on nice and tight, put it in the fridge. The refrigeration will stop the fermentation and it will age in the fridge and get better and better and better. And better. And that's how you do it. That's how you make real, authentic sauerkraut. I want to thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think once you make this sauerkraut. Post a comment down below. And hey guys, do me a favor. Please thumb the video up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And enjoy your fermented vegetables. More coming up. Thanks for watching. Cheers.